Hello and welcome to Contemplations. I'm here with Josh today,
Hello.
and we're going to be discussing the most effective means of participating in politics and kind of discussing which those might be and what we think about them. So, why don't you start? I think you wanted to start with saying why participation in politics could be a good thing or was important for
Yeah,
people, not
and
just socially, but in their individual lives, right?
yeah. So, of course, the world isn't particularly uplifting at the minute. The state of the world is relatively depressing. Everyone's been shut in their homes for a long time. I imagine people are pretty pessimistic about the state of things, and if you feel powerless to do anything about the state of the world, then it can really get to you. And I think doing this job day in, day out, we're coming into contact with loads of negative stories all the time. You've got to think about how you can make all of these negative things a positive. And I think the best way to feel like things are going to get better is engaging in politics and doing something to actively make it better. And there are lots of different things you can do which should hopefully alleviate that feeling of helplessness in the face of the world going wrong, I suppose.
No, I mean, I agree with that generally. I think we can even say that more broadly, that it's not just kind of things that you can do in politics. It's things that you can do in your own life, right?
Yeah.
And so like you can not just be at home and read some depressing stories, but you can just go out and do anything. I mean, go out in your neighborhood and like look at some things that are kind of untidy or wrong or something like that needs to be fixed. Well, fix it, and you're gonna feel nice about it, right? And so you can kind
Yeah.
of start with little things and then kind of progress on to kind of bigger things, right?
It's
So, and
obviously
so,
not something that's exclusive to politics,
yeah,
but in this instance, it might be very useful, at
yeah.
least in a
No, I mean,
psychological sense, yeah.
I just meant that this is it's not like we're saying, well, if you're sad, just go do politics and it's gonna be better. Like it's I don't think that you meant that, but
No,
that's,
no, of
yeah.
course not. So there's also, of course, the kind of arguments of engaging in politics. There's also a certain amount of personal responsibility involved here in that if you are a person in the world, there are moral arguments that I'm not sure whether I agree with or not that suggest that you have to use your agency in the world to make the world better, and that doing so through politics might be one means of doing so. There's also, of course, the fact that engaging in politics can also further your own self-interests, particularly if you get elected into Parliament in the UK, then you get a lot of money for free. But that's not what we're really going to be talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you said that this can be kind of like a duty or something like that, just
Hmm.
to say that, well, if we're if you want to kind of engage, well, it's kind of your duty to engage in the world in order to make it better. I don't know
Hmm.
if you meant that, or is it?
Well, that's one argument. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I mean,
Mhm.
I at least consider it worthwhile mentioning, but I don't know whether I'm entirely convinced. Like, are you obligated to do so? Sure, it's a good thing, and I would encourage people to do it, but to suggest it's an obligation, I mean, it's a bit of a broad stroke, really, isn't it?
I mean, maybe I'm going to be repeating myself a little bit, and of course,
Hmm.
I don't want to take away from your point that
Hmm.
about political participation in particular, but I think that kind of what is kind of the Petersonian thing, I guess, is that if you kind of have an order, some kind of order in your own life, you're going
Hmm.
to radiate that outwards, and you're going to be able to affect that kind of change in other people's lives and in society. And
Hmm.
so if you kind of start small, it's going to grow wide on its own, and it's going to produce some kind of beneficial effects. When I say order, I don't mean like order as in a category. I mean like kind of purpose and happiness and like good things in your life, right? And so that might be, I don't know if that's something that we might discuss a bit later as well, how kind of personal action can then project itself into politics, that
Hmm.
that what you do in your own personal life, how that translates into politics and what political effects that has.
There are certainly there is a section where I talk about what an individual can do. Obviously, politics is a largely collaborative thing, so a lot of this is going to be talking about how you can engage with other people. But there are things you can do just as an individual. But another point I wanted to move on to quickly is that, of course, if you've got other things in your life that are clearly more pressing, so you've got, I don't know, problems in your family, stuff like that that's closer to home, it's probably more important to fix these things, but then it's up to you what you do with your time. Perhaps, you know, when there are other problems in your life and going into something else and taking on other burdens might not be helpful, but then at the same time, a distraction might be helpful, or feeling like you're actually achieving something in a different area might actually help you accomplish things in the otherwise troubled area. So it's very much something that should be up to you, but I imagine that most people are probably keen to actually do things to achieve their political goals. At least our audience probably are, because, you know, they're not going to be watching things about politics if you're not interested in it, I imagine.
Yeah, but then there's also the kind of the flip side of that. You said that it can be encouraging and kind of rewarding to engage in politics and achieve your political goals. But at the same time, if you kind of talk to many people who've been involved in politics, you know that it's often kind of tedious, you know, because it's a collaborative effort, it's a negotiating thing. It's something that doesn't always go the way that you want it to go, and often it's kind of full of disappointments like that. And so even though you might achieve something that you want, it's also kind of, there's also these kind of pitfalls, and so you shouldn't rely on that to kind of like bring kind of happiness to your life based on like, I'm going to achieve so much, you know, so that this is going to be my life now.
Well, of course, the whole reason we're having this conversation is because it's not all positive, right?
Yep.
There are specific things that are going to suit specific people, depending on what they want to get out of it. But broadly speaking, I think engaging with politics is very important, and I think people will get stuff out of it. But at the same time, you've got to be aware what you can do, and whether doing specific things caters to your specific political goals, and whether you'll get things out of it, like the kind of psychological capital that I was talking about earlier,
Yep.
and things like that.
And also I wanted to mention that you can, the way I talked about doing things in your own life and how that translates to politics, right? That also applies to politics in and of itself. Politics is not just engaging with like the parliament or something, or the government or something like that. It's also, politics is not just that central institution. It's it has kind of branches, you know, into local areas and things like that. So if you want to engage in politics, it's not just, well, I'm going to go to Westminster, Washington, whatever, and I'm gonna kind of lobby or something like that. It's also, it might also take the form of going to like a local town meeting or something like that, and discussing how things can be made better from your point of view, and engaging like that, and not just like the very formal high level politics.
Yeah, I mean, the actual participation can be as kind of run of the mill as going to the pub with your friends and having a chat about your different ideas and trying to develop things further. I mean, that's not a waste of time. You're talking to people, you're trying to argue for your ideas, maybe get something out of other people that you haven't thought about, and that's still something that's beneficial, because then you'll have a better understanding of politics. And although that's not really the kind of engagement I have in mind, I mean, it's something that's very easy, low effort, and it's still beneficial. But also, this is mainly going to focus on if you have political aims, what can you do to better progress to achieving them, rather than just developing yourself politically.
Yeah, I was just smiling there because you were saying the thing about the pub, and I was like, yeah, like this, the way the discussion is gonna go, we're gonna end it at that everything personal is political, you know, and being like that. So that's not what we're about, you know. There's a difference between the private and the political, and that's a good thing.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.